So is it possible to resolve chronic anxiety and stress? I recently did a Facebook Live talking about resolving anxiety, and I've had a few people talk about being in a persistent state of anxiety and recognizing that they don't really know where it's coming from. They can't pinpoint anything in particular that might be driving it. So I thought I'd do a quick video on this topic. So if you are watching live, do say hello, and if you're watching the replay, just put replay in the chat. Give me a like, thumbs up or a dislike, whatever you like. It just helps other people see the video. So if you are experiencing chronic anxiety and stress, research shows that being in that state of dysregulation does make it more difficult for the body to do important repair work. The good news is that you can resolve it. I know that as I did resolve it, and I've worked with many clients who've done the same. So some people describe experiencing being in a kind of default state of anxiety and stress. And some say it's the result of being unwell because they didn't experience anxiety and stress before that. For these people, it might be that the physical symptoms or sensations, as I like to call them, because I think the word sensations is less emotive, are driving the anxiety and stress. If that is the case, that the physical sensations are driving the anxiety and stress, the question arises, how do we heal those sensations? I've talked before about the difference between the medical model approach and the integrated model approach to health. Many people see health from a medical perspective. Simplification of that medical model: symptoms are the result of some agent, for example, a virus, or some malfunction, for example, the thyroid not working. And often the solution is some type of medication. Might be a short-term medication, might be a long-term medication. I know someone who had high blood pressure and he went to see the doctor and his wife went with him, and the doctor prescribed medication to reduce his blood pressure. And his wife was very disappointed because she really felt that the doctor needed to talk to him about his diet, lifestyle. He wasn't really very physically active. He was very overweight, and she was disappointed that the doctor didn't address any of that. And I've talked about this before. I read a story about someone else who had high blood pressure, and his doctor said, I could put you on medication, but actually this is something you could resolve by being more physically active, by changing your diet. That's what the guy did, and he actually normalised his blood pressure. I also know someone who was experiencing chronic fatigue, and their doctor prescribed tablets, and the active ingredient of those tablets was caffeine. Okay, I was amazed. I couldn't believe that that's what the main ingredient of this tablet were, and the solution to this person's issues was caffeine. And so they took these tablets, they felt alert and wired, but then they'd crash and then feel worse. And so eventually they went to see a naturopath. And a naturopath is operating from an integrated model of health, looking at the number of factors that can influence our health. And this naturopath did a complete overhaul. They changed their diet, they cut out certain things, they had a really super healthy diet, and they also learned relaxation techniques, took I think 2 or 3 supplements, not masses of supplements, and they made 100% recovery. Okay. Now for some people, the physical sensations of stress, anxiety may be driving some psychological stress. As for some of us, it is challenging to experience physical sensations without getting into our head and having unhelpful thoughts. this is going to last forever, I'm never going to get better, etc. Certainly that was something I did when I had ME/CFS. And this obviously causes more stress and anxiety. And if we're experiencing more sensation of anxiety in the body, then that's going to actually heighten the sensations in the body. Some say that anxiety and stress was part of their experience prior to developing ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID related conditions. Again, that was my experience. I was often anxious, worrying what other people thought, worrying about social interactions, worrying I'd upset someone. And when I started learning these tools, I did realise I was quite neurotic and I learned to be less neurotic. The stress we experience is supposed to be an adaptive response to help us deal with a threat. And ideally, once the threat has passed, the body can return to equilibrium, often called homeostasis, in which the goal is for the body to achieve a steady state. More often, the term allostasis is used to describe the way the body achieves stability through variation rather than achieving a single steady state. Let me give you an example of that. If you're too hot in your house, you could turn the thermostat down. That's homeostasis. Or you could turn your thermostat down, take your jumper off, open the windows, have a cold drink. That's allostasis. Okay? Now, for some of us, the stress wasn't short-lived and our nervous systems became dysregulated because the physiology did not return to equilibrium. And this may be because the person didn't feel safe in their environment. This could have happened from a young age, from being in a dysfunctional relationship, either at a young age or later on in life, from being in a dysfunctional environment, a school, workplace, etc. For instance, I've worked with clients who were bullied at school, but they were also bullied in their workplace. So it could be any combination of those and other factors. And the result is the body is in a state of dysregulation. Now that can be difficult to deal with, and so often people learn to disconnect from their body because having that dis-ease in the body was challenging to be with. And so people often go to their heads. They create a belief, a thought, which is a way of getting out of the body, out of that physical discomfort. And we create stories to help make sense of our experience. So we create and adopt beliefs. For instance, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. And we create and adopt behaviours designed to help us achieve those feelings of safety, of love, of approval. So it might be, for example, developing behaviours like perfectionism, being an overachiever or people pleaser, because we have the belief that I will get love and approval and feel safe by doing these behaviours. If these feelings of not feeling safe become persistent, then that dis-ease in the body can result in disease. Okay? And what I and many clients have learned is that it is possible to heal this dysfunction of the nervous system, to experience calm, peace, and confidence. We can learn to shift these patterns by accessing our inner resources. We can learn to break patterns by learning to feel safe in our body and experience our body sensations. And to experience those body sensations without creating unhelpful beliefs, thoughts, and behaviours. So how do we do this? By learning body, mind, or bottom-up approaches. For For example, somatic, experiencing, body and breath work. We can also learn this by learning mind, body or top-down approaches. For example, brain training, reframing, therapeutic work, healing wounds by doing inner child work, shifting beliefs. And you can access your supervision. This is your ability to operate from a place of trust, love, compassion, wisdom. Some people call this part of ourselves the wise self or the true self, the authentic self, the whole self. You can call it whatever you want, the higher consciousness. But we can become conscious and aware of the patterns that we're caught up in, the unhelpful beliefs, the thoughts and behaviours that aren't serving us. For example, if a person is experiencing discomfort in their body, maybe they're experiencing upset, their default strategy might be to comfort eat, and then they feel bad because they've comfort eaten too much. But we can become aware of these patterns and take care of the part of us that experiences the anxiety and stress. Now, some people call that part that experiences the anxiety and the stress the lower self. Don't really like that term because it implies less than. Some people call it the wounded self or the child self. We can learn to respond to that anxious part with compassion and understanding, and by being present for that anxious part. And when working with clients, that's what we focus on. We focus on learning tools to support self-regulation, nurturing themselves and helping the person develop self-compassion and forgiveness. This supports regulation. And when we learn to self-regulate, this can support healing. This is a step-by-step process you can learn. Okay, as mentioned, we can start with exercises focused on connecting with the body. In his book, The Body Keeps the Score, Bessel van der Kolk talks about the Truth and Reconciliation Committee hearings, and he says that when people started experiencing trauma because they were talking about traumatic events, they would pause the proceedings. Some people would hold them, people would sing, they would sway, they would kind of gently rock the person, and that was soothing. So there's all sorts of strategies that you can do to get back into your body so that you're not going into your head and creating unhelpful stories. Really simple things: self-massage, stroking your arms, holding yourself. I think Peter Levine talks about putting one hand under your armpit and holding your other arm. So you can just experiment and see what works for you. Just doing whatever you find soothing. Okay, different things work for different people. One exercise I quite like is just to gently tighten and release muscle groups. For instance, my right foot, just tighten it and release. My ankle, tighten and release. Obviously, if you are experiencing cramps, maybe that exercise is not so good if it's going to cause your body to go into a cramp. But that's something I just gently go through the whole body, just gently tightening and releasing the different parts, and I find that relaxing. So if you've got any questions or comments, pop them in the chat. If you're watching the replay, do tag me. Feel free to send me a private message if you've got a question. If you'd like to know more about the new Building Resilience program that's going to be launched in March, comment below and I'll send you a link where you can check it out. Thanks for watching. Wishing you great health. Bye for now.